Welcome to another episode of Bite Size Dental Marketing. It's Friday, which means it's the read of the week. And we have the lovely Cringy, aka Kristyn, here with us today. And Hannah
Cringy
Banana.
Kristyn in the house.
And today there's two articles, one post and one article that we're going to be looking at. And Kristyn, I know you have something nice for us if you want to kick us off.
Yep, you know it. I'm always on Reddit. That's the only time I find time to read, honestly. That's just like my complete truth is that the only time I read is articles on Reddit. So I found this really cool one. You guys know I love my border collies. I love my dogs. And there was an accident in Idaho where an SUV collided with a truck that was carrying a horse trailer. And it was like this really bad accident. Well, the guy in the SUV had a border collie that just like went missing after the accident. And then it was, let's see how long, it was 2 weeks later that they found the dog on a random sheep farm just doing its job, just herding sheep. It wasn't even eating or taking care of itself. It was just herding sheep. And so
this is my destiny.
Yeah, as soon as it leaves the house, it immediately default setting. Go chase sheep.
Yeah. And I don't know. I thought it was really cool because border collies are known for being so intense about their jobs. Like my border collie, he's always like on it. He's like ball, 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 like ball is life. He will choose balls or anything. He has his personal ball.
Sounds like me.
I don't know. It did remind me of like how people, I think whenever we're lost or confused or whatever it is in our lives, we kind of go to our default setting, whatever feels comfortable and natural to us. So I thought that was cool. I know it's kind of a lighthearted thing, but I liked it.
I like it too.
That is awesome.
Anything with dogs.
And is there a name? What will you give us the title of the post so that if somebody wants to look it up, they can do that?
Of course. The title is Dog Ejected from Car During Sunday Crash Found on Sheep Farm Herding Sheep.
So if you guys want to go learn more about the border collie that went back to default setting when being flung out of a car, there's a great lesson in there for you.
Also, adopt, don't shop.
Exactly.
Adopt, don't shop. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Kristyn. I'll definitely have a look at that one too. I love stories like that. So my one is a bit on the other side, less of a story and more of a productivity tip, and one that I think all of us struggle with, and it's the
especially
power
on a Friday.
Especially the power to say no. And the title of the article is "The Ultimate Productivity Hack is Saying No." And it's on a website called James Clear. So if anybody wants to look at it, the ultimate productivity hack is saying no. So I'll read a bit of it here just to give you guys an idea, because this really resonated with me. I think as people, we tend to be pleasers and we don't want to say no, even if we know our plates are already too full, or we actually don't even want to do something, but because of that fear of disappointing someone or wanting to say yes, we often go with that instead of saying no. And this article talks about how that can actually impact your productivity and have an influence on your overall life. So here goes. The ultimate productivity hack is saying no. Not doing something will always be faster than doing it. This statement reminds me of the old computer programming saying that said, remember that there is no code faster than no code. The same philosophy applies in other areas of our lives. For example, there's no meeting that goes faster than not having a meeting at all. This is not to say you should. This is not to say you should never attend another meeting. But the truth is that we say yes to many things we don't actually want to do, and there are many meetings that are held that actually don't need to be held. And there's, as it says, a lot of code that's been written that could probably be deleted, and the program would still run. So how often do people ask you to do something and you just reply, sure thing? Kristyn, Hannah?
How often say just like straight up agreement, like no questions or debate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
do something or
25.
help with something. Do something or help with something.
I mean, in general, whether it's us, we want to go for drinks, or will you help me with this quickly, or can you quickly check this out for me? I mean, I'll definitely say I say yes way more than I say no. Way
I think
more.
I'm opposite. I'm more of a pessimist, so I tend to be very cautious about saying yes to things. I think I'm in the 20%, 25% range, honestly.
So you are winning at the ultimate productivity hack already. Something that Hannah and I can
Yeah,
learn
but Kristen definitely is productive AF because I see how she grinds at work and then she goes home and she grinds at being a musician. And I don't think she really ever
You
says
can't say
yes to
yes
anyone but being productive.
all the time.
I think I have to say no a lot more than you think to, especially to Clay. He has, like, for the music side of things, he has so many ideas. He's like, let's do this skit and let's do this thing. And I'm like, no, that's terrible. That's horrible. It's cringy. It sucks. It's not going to work. Like, all these things. So I have to say no a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely something I can learn from. So it continues here. And again, I think this applies more to me than when you would say sure thing, but then 3 days later, you're overwhelmed by how much you now have on your to-do list. And we become frustrated by our obligations, even though we were the ones that said yes to them in the first place. And it's worth asking if all of the things that we're saying yes to are necessary. Many times, a simple no will be more productive than whatever work even the most efficient person can muster. So, but if the benefits of saying no are so obvious, then why do we say yes so often? So we agree to many requests not because we want to do them, but because we don't want to be seen as rude or arrogant or unhelpful. And often you have to consider that saying no to someone you will interact with again in the future, your coworker, a spouse, your family, or your friends. So that's why we have these things that come up in the back of our minds. And saying no to these people can particularly be difficult because we like them and we want to support them. Not to mention, we often need their help too. And collaborating with others is such an important part of our lives as humans, of course. And the thought of straining the relationship outweighs the comment of our time and energy. So, for this reason, it can be helpful to be gracious in our response. Do whatever favors you can and be warm hearted and direct when you have to say no. But even after we have accounted for those social considerations, many of us still seem to do a poor job at managing the trade off between yes and no. We find ourselves overcommitted to things that don't meaningfully improve or support those around us, and certainly don't improve our own lives because we start to drown. And perhaps one issue is how we think about the meaning of yes and no. And then it goes into uh, the difference between the words yes and no. We get used to we get used to a comparison of these two. Uh, is that excuse me, I completely lost my train of thought there now. The words yes and no get used in comparison to each other so often that it feels like they carry equal weight in a conversation. In reality, they are not just opposite in meaning, but of entirely different magnitudes in commitment. When you say no, you are only saying no to one option. When you say yes, you are saying no to every other option, which is interesting that they say that. I like how the economist Tim Harford put it. Every time we say yes to a request, we are also saying no to anything else that we maybe want to accomplish with our time. And that's one thing that also stood out to me, in the sense that everything is a trade-off at all times. I mean, we know that as humans, whether it's in your personal life or at work, if you're spending time on one thing and you said yes to it, but you're not 100% sure, you could have been spending that time on something else that maybe would have been more productive, or that actually could have contributed in a special way. So I'll skip forward a little bit to where they speak about the role of no, because I think this is the important thing for the listeners to understand and take from this article. Saying no is sometimes seen as a luxury that only those in power can afford. And it is true. And it is true. Turning down opportunities is easier when you can fall back on a safety net provided by power, money, or authority. But it is also true that saying no is not merely a privilege reserved for the successful among us. It's also a strategy that can actually help you be more successful in your day-to-day job. Saying no is an important skill to develop at any stage of your career because it retains the most important asset of your life, and we cannot express this the most: your time. As an investor, Pedro Sorrentino put it, if you don't guard your time, people will steal it from you. And that really stood out to me because Hannah and I actually recently watched Click, because it's trending on Netflix, the Adam Sandler movie Click. And it's so crazy to see how important time is when it starts to skip and it starts being taken away from you without you even wanting it to be taken from you. So that's something we cried basically the whole movie, especially the parts with the parents and watching them grow old. So if you haven't gone and seen that again, guys, do yourself a favor and go watch Click
Good life
again.
lessons.
It's really a good life lesson and definitely speaks to this about the hack of being more productive and being able to say no. So the final part of this article that the author touches on is upgrading your no. Over time, as you continue to improve and succeed, your strategy needs to change. The opportunity cost of your time increases as you become more successful. And at first, you just eliminate the obvious distractions and explore the rest. And as your skills improve and you learn to separate what works from what doesn't, you have to continually increase your threshold of what you are actually going to say yes for. You still need to say no to the distractions, but you also need to learn to say no to opportunities that were previously good uses of your time. So what you can say yes or no to can also evolve where you are in your career and where you are in your personal life. Because what this can then do is actually make space for great use of your time and to find the next thing that's going to achieve what you want to achieve. And then the final part to wrap this up is the most difficult one. As I said, especially for me and Hannah, I know you also struggle with this. Kristyn, you're a bit ahead of us, so congrats to you there. But it's how to say no is how they end up. So most of us probably are too quick to say yes and too slow to say no. And it's worth asking yourself, where do you feel you as an individual fall on that spectrum? If you have trouble saying no, you may find the following strategy proposed by Tim Hartford, the British economist, helpful. He writes, one trick is to ask, if I had to do this today, would I agree to it? It's not a bad rule of thumb, since any future commitment, no matter how far away it might be, will eventually become an imminent problem. So if you say yes to something in 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, if I had to do it right now, would I feel as confident in my decision? If an opportunity is exciting enough that you would drop whatever you are doing right now to say yes, then perhaps that is the right decision. If you need to think twice, then maybe it's not the best way to spend your time right now. It's impossible to remember to ask yourself these types of questions each time you face a decision, but it's still a useful exercise to revisit every now and then. Saying no can be difficult, but it's often easier than what the alternative will hold if you say yes to everything, but you are not prepared to follow through. So it ends off with, what is true about health is also true about productivity. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of care. So that was something really interesting to me, something for all of us to keep in mind. I mean, in terms of our careers and professional lives, for all those, whether it's dentists or other marketers listening, being smart with how we spend our time and what we can say yes to is so valuable. But also in our personal lives, don't say that you're going to make dinner plans with someone if you're not actually going to, because that erodes trust and it makes it bad. So be smart and think before you say yes next time.
That was awesome.
Excellent. I have to say, a lot of what I was thinking about the whole time you were speaking on that is what it really comes down to is prioritization. Because if something should be a priority, if something's going to make a meaningful impact in anyone's life, or for the better of a group or for something, then it should be something you say yes to, depending on what your other priorities are. So if a coworker or someone is asking for your help on something and it's for the betterment of the company or the agency, their dental practice, if that person is able to obtain that new skill they need help with, or they're able to get something more important done because you helped them with that, then in that case, I would say then you should say yes. It really should depend on what the outcome of saying yes would be versus the outcome of saying no, depending on the event. And I think that goes for social life as well, because sometimes people are either really strong, it's about balance. You're either really far in one direction, you always say yes, and then you find yourself exhausted, or you haven't been looking out for your own health because you haven't given yourself time to recoup with personal time or alone time. And then you have the people who always say no, and they actually miss out on a lot. And they look back and they regret the time they didn't spend with their friends or family because they were too recluse. So I think it really is about balance and prioritization.
Yeah.
I definitely can resonate with that. For me, I go through a series of questions and answers in my head. I say, is this a want, a need, or a favor? Do I have the capacity? Am I the correct person or the best person to do this for you? And also, like Hannah said, what are the impacts on other people, and how does that play out?
Yeah, that's a really smart take. I really like what you said.
A want, a need, or a favor. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I like that.
And there's time for everything. And, you know, whether I have the capacity or not, you know, I can decide, is this a yes? Is it an absolute no? Or is it a not now? Because I have a lot of not nows. There are things that I want for myself, or I want to help with, or I want to do a favor for somebody, but I just can't right now because I have other obligations. I'm physically unable, whatever it is. And so saying not right now, or finding them an alternate solution, even just introducing them to another person who has the capacity that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely that. Perfectly put. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this week's Read of the Week. We'll see you all next Friday again with some more interesting reads and things that you can share with your friends. Until next time, this is Bite Size Dental Marketing. Thank you guys for being here with me today, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.